We've heard a lot of talk during this political season, haven't we? Have you seen enough commercials? Don't you want to see another set? Would you like for this thing to go on another month and a half or two? Who knows how many opinion polls have been conducted? How many doors have been knocked on? How many phone calls have been made? How many emails have been sent? All of those activities are part of what we've come to understand as the way elected officials are chosen in this society and time. They're part of the way we decide what our public policy is. But what standard should we use to judge public policy? What factors should guide our decision making? Jesus devoted his public ministry to relieving suffering and teaching about the values that make for peace and justice. He talked a lot about something called the kingdom of heaven or the kingdom of God. Eventually, his enemies used that kingdom of heaven talk to promote the idea that Jesus was trying to go about some kind of political insurgency. And they used that talk to orchestrate his arrest, his trial, and his crucifixion. This idea of the kingdom of heaven and peace and justice is radical, subversive. It was dangerous then. Is it still dangerous? Jesus wasn't running for elective office. He wasn't trying to set up another political party. When Jesus talked about the kingdom of heaven or the kingdom of God, he was talking about something very, very different. He was talking about people living according to values and principles that square with divine justice. He was talking about people living and working and farming and doing everything else, mindful that we are accountable to God for how we live and how we treat each other. In the last of the three lessons that we read in Matthew's 25th chapter, Jesus gives a vivid illustration about divine judgment. In that illustration, Jesus refers to himself by the term he often used, the Son of Man. He never called himself the Messiah. He would always call himself the Son of Man. He mentions a throne of glory. One of the few times Jesus talks about a throne and refers to himself. He mentions angels of power and judgment that has a profound and eternal consequence. People from all over the world, from every place in the world. That's literally what that all the nations means. Actually, it's a better translation than the all the nations. Will be judged by the same standard, whether you lived in China or Cuba, Uruguay or United States, whether you live in Australia or someplace else. The same standard. How they treated the people who are most vulnerable. Those who Jesus described as, quote, the least of these who are members of my family, end quote. Which is the first and only point in this sermon. How we treat the most vulnerable among us is the universal standard for judging personal and public morality. It's not how many crosses we have on us. It's not how big a Bible we carry. It's not how pious we look when we come into places that publicly seem that we should be noticed at. One standard. How we treat the most vulnerable among us. In his illustration about divine judgment, Jesus bestowed divine commendation or divine condemnation on everyone, depending on how each person responds to the needs of vulnerable people. Jesus reminds each person from every place in the world about what justice means. How do you treat people who are hungry and thirsty? How do you treat people who are strangers? How do you treat people who are poor? How do you treat people who are sick? How do you treat people who are not free? This isn't a local standard. It isn't a standard that favors people in certain parts of the world. It's the worldwide standard of the kingdom of heaven, being applied by he who spoke of himself as the Son of Man. And one would hope that we would have gotten the message about that standard by now. After all, it's only been around about 2,000 years. One would think that even in the remedial class, we would have gotten the hint that the standard isn't about how long we sing or how big our church buildings are. It isn't about how many people we baptize. It's about how we treat the people who are vulnerable. And one would especially hope that religious people and their leaders would have gotten that standard by now. So it's more than a little bit disappointing to watch and to listen to public policy debates and political campaigns where concern for the vulnerable isn't even mentioned, yet alone debated. Think about how much time and money and energy has been spent during this political season. I went on the internet and did a little search. Cost of the how much money has been spent in the 2012 presidential campaign? You want to know? Between the two primary major candidates, more than $1 billion. I said B. You know, $1 billion is 1,000 million. One has spent over 900 million and raised. The other one has spent close to 900 million and raised. How much of that time and money and energy has focused on the standard Jesus declared? Concern and care for the vulnerable among us isn't based on some partisan, social, or political value. No political party or candidate owns it. Concern and care for vulnerable people who live in every society is the universal standard of justice, because people need food and clean water everywhere. Doesn't matter what party you're in or what place you're in, you need food and water. Strangers need to be welcomed, and they're everywhere, all around us. People who are poor need clothing and shelter everywhere. People get sick everywhere. They need health care everywhere. And everywhere people are oppressed and are imprisoned by oppressive conditions and situations. Let's be clear, Jesus wasn't declaring a local standard for a particular era either. Concern and care for the vulnerable isn't just a first century notion of what's right. You know, that's what you did back in Jesus' day, but you know, just as with hymn lines and suit designs, things change. Well, guess what? This standard hadn't changed. No matter where one lives or when one lives, it's right and decent to be concerned about and to care for those who are vulnerable. No matter where one lives or when one lives, doing so is commendable. And no matter where one lives or when one lives, refusing to do so is damnable. And let's be honest, most debates about public policy are not about concern and care for the vulnerable among us. Most of the arguments don't focus on how we're treating people Jesus called the least of these in my family. Sadly, when you go to look at the voter guides, and I encourage you to go look up voter guides on the internet and see what's really important to people who say they want to put out voter guides. I did that in part to prepare for this sermon, but also because on the church answer machine this week there have been lots of folks that called and said, "Pastor, we're a wonderful pastor. As you prepare your people for this Sunday, remind them to go vote and remember their biblical values. And if they don't have time to vote or don't have time to think about the candidates, go to our voter guides." So I went and looked up the voter guides. I shouldn't tell you about the voter guides if I haven't looked at them myself, right? So I went and looked up the voter guides. Here's what they're concerned about. Abortion. The right to own guns. Yeah, people are really vulnerable because they don't have enough guns. Really vulnerable. Yeah, that's on the top 10 of Jesus. You got to have you a gun. And the pastors have told you, you need to vote based upon the right to own guns. Opposition to same-sex marriage. Well, I guess they're really having trouble having people of opposite sex getting married. Just based on the voter guides, you understand. Heterosexuals are having a hard time getting marriage licenses. And so I'm supposed to tell you that you need to go vote to protect the right of heterosexuals to get marriage license. When was the last time heterosexuals had trouble going down and getting a marriage license? Are those of us who are straight really vulnerable when it comes to the ability to marry? Or is it those of us who aren't? But again now, that's on the voter guide. 20% tax cut. Yeah, that's what we need. A 20% tax cut. Is that really what is important? Are people really struggling because they are paying taxes too much? Some people are struggling because they don't make enough money to pay taxes.